we're talking about
Thank you.
your reminiscences and your earliest thing that you could remember. Were we all here? I think we all were, weren't we? Yeah. All right. I said we'll start off with giving you an opportunity to ask me about my first. So I'll tell you. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right. The first thing, which I'm pretty sure it's the first thing I can remember because I can date it, and you'll understand why I can date it in a minute. But it may not be the first thing. When I was little, when I was born in the house owned by my granddad, and my dad and mum lived there, and some of the time my mum's two sisters with their husband lived there. It was a very close family because two sisters married two brothers. So it was always a crowded house. So I've got lots of memories of that house. We moved to a house of our own, renting a house of our own when I was 6. Now, I've got fond memories because I've got very fond memories of my granddad. I seem to remember I used to sleep with my granddad quite a lot. I think I had a bedroom of my own, but I can remember many times of sleeping alongside. He died when I was 11, unfortunately. I was very close to him, and he was very young when he died, but he was tall, very, as I've heard someone from my childhood describing him, he always looked so smart, always wore a tie, and he'd got silvery hair. So I can imagine, and I've got photographs, so I can imagine him very well. So memory I can recall is that I'm lying in bed facing the window, and Grandad is standing at the side of the bed, and behind him is a fireplace. It was an old type of house. There was a fireplace, and I know in the winter he used to have a fire in his bedroom. And Grandad says to me, notice the way I'm speaking here. Grandad says to me, when you're telling a story, you sometimes use present tense. And I could say Grandad said to me, your mummy's had a little girl. And that's as much as I can remember of it. Now, my sister is 2 years, 4 months younger than I am. And I obviously did not know. I don't know what I thought. Oh, I can almost see myself. Oh, I see. Yeah, it didn't really mean much to me. I wouldn't have known, obviously wouldn't have known that she was pregnant before. You know, I was too young to know. But I did understand. And I don't remember meeting my baby sister for the first time. I don't remember anything. I remember her when she was a little bit older. That's why I can date it. Any questions?
No, it's clear.
That's clear. Okay, the other thing I can remember, now this may have happened before, but I don't know. Christmas as now family were magical. And there are so many things about Christmas I remember. Going downstairs in the morning to find your Christmas presents was a big thing. But anyway, the memory of this is standing at the bottom of the stairs, must have just been me and my mum and dad, and being a little bit scared because they were saying, let's go and see if Father Christmas has left you anything. And then opening the door, and the curtains hadn't been opened, but there's still some light coming in. I could see the table in the living room, and on top of the table, it was all shadowy, was a car, a pedal car. And I went, presumably all goggle-eyed. So I'm seeing it as I was as a child. And I can't remember anything else. I can't remember them opening the curtains. I can't remember even them taking the car off the table and my getting in it. I do have photographs, old black and white photographs of my sitting in the car, looking terribly sweet, looking really funny, with a balaclava on, okay, outside in the cold, and I know what color car it was, even though there were black and white photographs. It was maroon. It was dark maroon. And to me at the time, it seemed very big. And of course, it was probably quite tiny. So that's what I can remember. But I must have been so young that I can't remember anything else. Someone mentioned flashback before. It's like a flashback memory. So there's nothing else. I've not left you with much else to ask me there, have I? I shouldn't have said so much.
I just wanted to ask if you also had the presents under your Christmas tree.
No, we didn't have that tradition in my
Okay.
house. We had a Christmas tree, but
Yeah.
presents didn't go under the Christmas tree.
So the presents were in the pillows, or where? Because
in the pillowcases for the kids. Yes. When later on, when I was married as a parent, and then yeah, my daughter, when I go up there for Christmas, they've got a Christmas tree and they put presents under the Christmas tree. And if I go up for Christmas dinner, which is Christmas lunch, it's lovely because the fairy leaves us all with presents as well. And we still have this, even though the grandkids don't believe in fairies anymore. So they do, but we didn't. Our presents went into the pillowcase. Later on, as Christmas became even more commercialized, you could buy these Father Christmas sacks. So my cousins had those. So later Christmases, you'd go in and you'd be going in and ripping paper off. Look what I've got. Look what Father Christmas has bought me. There was one disappointment though, at Christmas, is that when you got to the bottom of the pillowcase, there was always an orange. And you knew you'd got to the bottom of it, and there were going to be no more presents to come. So
it was a sign. Was it a sign?
It wasn't meant as a sign. It was just traditionally to put an orange in. But Christmas mornings weren't over then, because you'd got presents from aunts and uncles, and one aunt and uncle lived in the next village, so we had to wait for them to come. So there was it was all about, as a little kid, it was all about presents and then playing with them. Do you remember the other day when we were talking about, someone actually said to me about New Year's, and I said I never liked New Year's Eve, and one of you said to me, that's because you hadn't, it was probably Tanya actually, you probably had no more presents to come. No more presents. And it's absolutely true. Yeah, Christmas was magical. And
this is why in Italy we have the Befana tradition. So you can actually look, have an the fact that
after Christmas,
after Christmas you've got the celebrations, and then you got the 7th, the 6th of January still as something to look forward to. And then you know that all the holidays are have ended. And
as Tanya was saying, I think you might have said it as well, Marina, the Ukrainian Christmas is a bit later anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, it was the 6th of January as well, but since this year, or even last year, we will celebrate it like you as well.
Yeah, I remember you saying. And my cousins, so I've got two men as they are now, Glenn and Brand, especially Glenn. He's a sentimentalist. Cousin Anne as well, but she was younger. Always remember our Christmases as being magical. When I was married to Penny, and they were still magical even after we'd grown up for a time, because they were all still together. But Penny would say, when we got married, we used to love Christmases with my parents and family, but going to her mum's for Christmas was dismal. Okay, sorry?
Which word have you used?
Dismal. DISMAL. It was boring, right? We'd go down there and you might have a present. I wasn't expecting lots of presents in that way, but there was no kind of traditional, but no fun in it. And I remember that they had their own ways of doing it, but her parents were a lot more formal, a lot more conservative. And I used to, right, give you another expression here. I used to nurse the same glass of whiskey. To nurse, there's a way of writing this, nurse the same glass of whiskey for about an hour before being offered a top-up. Do you understand what I'm saying? So
were you drinking or?
No, I'm growing up by this time. It's when I'm married to Penny. Let's not get confused on this. So I'm saying that when we went to her parents' house, it wasn't exciting like with my family. There wasn't an atmosphere. And she agrees with that as well. It was much more fun with my family than her mum and dad, who were terribly conservative. Yes, they are. Yes, no. Yes, they are. So I would be holding, and I'm saying I would be, I've gone right off track here. I would be nursing the same glass of whiskey. I would be nursing it tenderly, making it last, wanting another one. If I was back in my family, I'd have been able to go to the drinks cabinet and pour myself another one. With me? So that's what nursing means. Yeah, Penny agrees. We were very cruel to Penny at our house at Christmas. I'll tell you why. She's got the worst voice in the world. Okay, second only to my mum, who's now dead, who used to say, when I sing, I think it sounds beautiful, but when my mum sang, we always used to tell her to shut up. It sounds beautiful to me. Penny just cannot hold a tune. Okay, this is something else. She cannot hold a tune. The cruel things that my dad used to start this off, and not knowing this, it'd say, Penny, we'd like to hear you sing. Penny, sing Away in a Manger. You know Away in a Manger, the song? All right. Away in a manger, no crib for a bed. Okay. It could have been Silent Night. It could have been anything. Away in a Manger is a really kids one. But she was so off key that we'd all laugh at her. The whole family would laugh at her. We British are terribly cruel, you know. So that used to be.
So was it false?
Was it what?
False singing?
No, she can't sing. She's terrible. If she ever sings, I tell her to shut up. Don't sing.
Can you record her?
You are worse than his mother.
That would be really cruel if I tell her that I was telling you all about her singing, and the one you wouldn't like it either. You'd never come again once you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, that's another story. I'm wandering off. Okay. Let's move on from.
Maybe some questions, Steve.
Yeah.
How long did you keep your pedal car?
I've no idea. It must, if I'd had it when I was 2 years old, I would have, another expression here, I would have outgrown it fairly quickly. I don't even remember sitting in it. I remember it because there are photographs of me wearing a balaclava. Of course, one had to reach the pedals to be able to make it go. So I would imagine by the time I was 4 or 5, it would have been too small for me. And the next thing which I got, we mentioned last session, at some stage I got a tricycle, but I also had a scooter as well. Yeah, and lots of toys, which just reminds me, actually, So talking about toys, let's put that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How about we talk about a toy or a game you had when you were a child that you particularly liked, whatever age you were, but something which you've got really fond memories of because of the way you played with it or because of who gave it to you. So interview each other about it, ask the right kind of questions, why you were attached, what you did with it. Okay, you come back, you do reported speech again, but we'll give the opportunity to us the opportunity to ask directly the person who had the story, ask some questions as well. Okay, all right with that? Favorite toy, a game. Could be when you were very little. It could even be something which it could be something you had as a teen, but you tend to be out. Not so keen on toys at that stage, are you? No. In the wink of an eye, then. To use Alma's lovely expression. Chat. What message have I got? Chat. Nurse to hold a drink for a long time without drinking it. Yes. Who put that? Samuel. Yes, you could nurse other things as well. You can nurse other things. You could be nursing a plate of hors d'oeuvre or something like that, holding on to them for a long time. Okay. Breakout rooms. We want 3, 2, 3. Assign automatically. Be a big surprise for you. See you soon.
A Barbie bedroom, you mean?
Barbie, yes, it was a
Barbie
Barbie bedroom,
bedroom.
Venetian style, made of plastic, and cloth and fabric,
Yeah.
let's say. And it has canopy bed, lots of wonderful other accessories with it. And it was all spread out in maybe 1 meter length of furniture. So it was really a very big thing, which occupied like a whole table. And I used to play with it mostly on my own, but there wasn't a problem because I think it was like very special. It wasn't something like you would buy easily in a store. It was like a special edition. And I loved it. And basically, but the reason why it's still in my heart, it's because it was one of the few things which was lost in transit when I moved to the other countries, I said. And so we organized a shipment of all the furniture, my family's furniture, and it took ages to get it back. And when we finally got it back, the box where all this toy was kept had been damaged, and someone had definitely burglarized it and taken away the Barbie, which I could never find one as the same kind, and my beautiful bedroom, Barbie bedroom, and it was irreplaceable because it really actually was something that I couldn't
Can I
find
just ask one
anywhere else.
question? What word had what to it? Someone had what?
Okay, yes, you're right. Someone had burglarized this. No,
What did
someone
you?
had pilfered it. How would you say?
Oh, I see. I thought you'd use a more complicated word, and I wasn't sure of the meaning of it. Bowder, which means something else.
Burglarized.
No, all right. You went no, burgled is when you
get into a house and you take things out, right?
Pilfered it, yes, but basically, if you're talking colloquial English, someone had nicked it.
Nicked. And my explanation to that is that they wanted they saw something special and they wanted to give it to their children, the people who were just moving around at in the shipment area. Yeah. But to me, it was like a wound that I saw waiting for
traumatized, really.
Yes, yes, yeah. This was my favorite choice. It was something that I still regret.
I'm going to move. I'm going to move around the other rooms and just give you a couple of tips there. A weight on my heart. Now, it was good. You're using your own expression there. It's not something we use. It's a weight on my heart. I had a heavy heart about it.
No, I mean in a wound.
No, it was early. It was earlier than you said. It was a weight on my heart. You said it was like a weight on my heart. Yeah, okay. A weight on my heart. Yeah, you had a heavy heart. When you said it was like a wound, rather than wound, I'd express it in a different way. it like stabbed you. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, because we
It
talk
was a
about
stab in her heart.
it stabbed me in the
A
heart.
stab.
It
Yeah,
stabbed-
it's
you know, it's
when I said wound, I was trying to say
Yeah.
that. And yeah, stab. Yeah.
stab
It's stab.
would be better.
Mm.
Better. All right, I'll move on to another room. I'll hear what you've got to say later, then, Daniel. Okay.
All
Okay, no
right.
problem.
All right.
Bon voyage.
Okay. See you later.
You are
Okay,
in
so
for my
Daniel, so you got my
I don't
I-
either.
Yeah, so, oh,
Ignore
somebody,
me. Ignore me.
yes.
Just continue. I won't say, you know. This is,
I think we already discussed our childhood and our bright memories from there. And we just found out we were very similar games. with
Yeah.
Elizabeth,
But
in our
when I
childhood.
was a little bit older, they gave me as a present roller
Oh.
skates, and I love them.
Mhm.
I love them.
who gave you?
And my parents. My parents.
My parents. Okay.
Yeah.
You could use, if you'd been talking about your parents already, you could, yes, use
Yes.
they. If you hadn't, you could have used passive. I was given.
I have been. I was given.
I was given. But you may have mentioned your parents before, so I don't know. If you hadn't mentioned your parents, then I'd
Okay.
use I was given. You could say you liked similar things, then, is what you're going to say then.
Yes, we like the similar things, and sometimes, yeah, played with the same gender, with the boys,
Yes,
not
because
with girls. Yeah,
You've played with the
I-
same gender. What do you mean you played with the same gender?
not with girls, with boys.
I loved
What?
to
Sorry,
play
Marina.
with-
Explain that. You played with the same gender as girls.
No.
No.
I just meant Elizabeth and me. We played with the same gender of people, not with the girls. We played with boys mostly.
Also with boys. Yes.
Also with boys. As for me,
Yes.
You
also
played.
with
All right.
boys.
You played with boys as
Yeah.
as well. Did you used to play doctors and nurses?
No, I think
That
I
used to be an old joke. Like doctors and
I was,
nurses.
and I have a terrible injuries after that. So
I'll see you soon. I'll go on to. I'll go to one more room and then I'll bring you back. Okay.
Yes.
oh, you just
Very young.
Hello.
Tommy, carry on.
Hi, Steve. Hi.
You told me. Just carry on as you finished.
No, we were speaking about these exams of C2.
And Steve, don't you know, is it proper to say after school club? Like something that children attend after school?
Yeah, you can say after
For after school care.
No, not care. No,
No care?
Mm.
No.
not care. After school activities.
After school activities.
They're like post-curriculum activities. But yeah, if it is a club, if it's like a chess club or something like that, an after-school club,
Mhm.
post-curriculum activities, it might be.
And circle.
No, I wouldn't call it circle. After-school club, after-school activity. It could be for football training. It could be for.
Mm.
It could be a debating club. I know we used to have one called, I think it was called the Friday Club. Where that was when we were older, I think in like sixth form, where they had debates. There are other things as well, amateur dramatics, dramatic society, and things like that. But after school club, if it was a club, okay, or after school activities, post-curriculum activities, okay.
Thank you, Steve. Perfect. Because I
Thank you.
was ahead of this after school club for 4 years.
What do you mean you were ahead?
Ahead a chef or a boss. Or I was
Yeah. Teacher head.
like a teacher.
Oh,
head,
you
yes.
were ahead.
We
Okay.
said just ahead.
No, listen,
in-
Eva, it's because you said I was ahead. I thought you meant
Ahead.
I thought you meant in front of.
Yeah. I thought
I was head of.
head of. Mhm.
Yeah, you can missing definite article out of. You can say I was ahead of. No, yeah, I was head of.
I was head of.
I was head of.
Mhm.
You know,
Without an
head of the
article.
data.
I was
Without,
head
yeah,
of.
I was head of.
These articles are horrible.
Yeah, strange one, wasn't it? I was head of
Yes,
after school activities is a better way of saying it.
I was head. Mhm.
Yeah, you know, if you were head of the school, you'd say I was head of the school. I was head of the. I was captain of the team. I was captain of the team. You would say I was a. If you say I was a captain of the team, it suggests that there were other captains as well.
Yes.
Okay.
And could I say I was head teacher or
Yeah.
not?
Yes.
Yes,
I am
also.
a teacher. Yes.
Possible.
If you said I was a head, if you were going to say I was a head teacher, I would. You're talking about a school you worked at. What did you do there? I was head teacher because it was a school. What work did you do in your life? I was a head teacher.
Yeah.
You see the difference?
Yes,
So-
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I understand.
Okay, let me. Okay,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
Thank you for your explanation.
Are you going to take C2 as well, Eva?
No. My God, no.
Your English is pretty good.
Mm, I have hardly B2. I know it. So
What?
I have to work a lot. But I want to also speak with you, Steve, because I would like to have lessons with you in the summer,
That's
if
fine.
you would agree. And
Yes.
if you
Yes.
time.
It would be fun. It would be fun with you, Eva.
Yes, okay, perfect.
I would enjoy with you because you make me laugh. Okay.
Perfect, yes.
You're always so smiley and happy.
Yes, I'm so happy because I learn many things from
It's
you.
just your personality, don't you think so,
Mm.
Sam? She's got a bright personality. You both have, actually. I'll see you soon. Okay, I'm bringing
Thank
you back.
you.
in a minute. Okay. Oh, you're back.
Yeah, so just you and me, Steve.
How
Like I suggested, like
How
I
did
suggested.
you get, how did you get back? Without
There was red icon or what was it?
I must have pressed something. Let me bring everyone else back then.
Okay.
Okay.
Samuel is coming. Welcome, Samuel. I like to talk to you, Sam. It was perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I noticed when you'd gone that you were both together. I thought that's appropriate.
Oh,
The neighbors together.
because Sam now he is studying for his exam and he is staying in Slovakia.
Yeah.
He's at home.
Yeah.
When's your exam, Sam?
22nd of January.
Yeah, that should be fun. How old are you?
23.
You're 20. I thought you were 23. Yeah. Yeah.
You're so young.
I can remember when I was 23. When I was 23, a different experience in life. I was 23 when I left the Marines. Okay, I was 23 and a half. I'd been in 6 years, completely different experience to you. So I'd been carrying a rifle for 6 years. I went to university later in life. I missed out on all the kind of freedom of university and all that. I was marching around and shooting and so on. Different experience. So I don't regret it. Okay, welcome back all. Where's Alma gone? Here she is. Alma and Daniel, I'll start off with you two, please. Okay, so
Okay.
to Alma, you start off. Tell me what Daniel was on about. What he was
All
on
right.
about.
So
Okay,
we
do you
had very
understand that? What he was on about. What he
what
was on about, what he was talking about. Okay.
Yes, he was. He gave me a lot of details about one of his passions, and his favorite toy was electronical. Were actually electronical trains, but not just engines and wagons.
What? Sorry,
You-
what trains? What trains?
Toy trains, electronic, all this, but it's electric. How would you say? Toy trains,
Were they
electric.
Were they electric?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they were.
Electric train. Yeah.
Electric
Electric
trains.
trains. Because
And
my first train was all coming back to me now. Was clockwork. You used to wind them up. Okay.
okay. No,
So,
these were
he had an electric train set.
yes, electric trains with a beautiful layout with the tracks, and it was all like something that he would build on over the years. His father started this tradition, and as a gift to his elder brothers, but then he became enamored with them, and he started his own collection, creating in his own bedroom a huge set on a table, and then from year on year he would just buy new pieces and actually create additional sets, a bigger set, and he still keeps it in a basement.
Really?
So he's hoping that soon he will be able to restore it and take it back to its beauty. If, as it seems, one of his granddaughters will start playing with it together with him.
That'd be great. And will you add more to it, Daniel?
Oh, no, I think Alma beautifully summed up everything
No, I meant,
told her.
what I meant is, would you add more to the train set?
No, it's rather expensive. And so I have plenty of material. Of course, it's a little bit old now, but I will try to restore it in order to recycle the material that I have, because I don't like to throw away things that are still working if I can avoid it.
Okay, the things which are still...
I really have a lot of things from 20 years ago that might do the job properly.
Very good. Okay.
So,
You can say things which are still usable. You can say
they're perfectly usable. That's right.
Yeah.
And so I will try to, what's the verb for it? To get the collaboration of the granddaughter that is interested in it, because houses have to be put together again, because they have lost the door, or they have lost the chimney, or things like that. Parts have to be glued together again.
Okay.
And so there is plenty of things to do.
Plenty of things to do. Yeah, you've got to get a collaboration. Bit of a heavy word to you. How old's your granddaughter?
She's 12, 13 now, 13.
I wouldn't use collaboration in that sense. It's a
No.
good word. It's a good word.
I was looking for something like, I will try to entice her.
Yes, that's right. Okay, that's better. And I like that better. I'll try to get her involved.
Yes.
I'll try to get her
involved.
I'll try to get her involved. It's like I try to get my grandkids involved in music, because it's what I'm good.
Yes, because I think we grandparents have the duty to teach them all the things that the internet and the PlayStation.
Yeah.
Because they waste so much time on that if they are not directed towards something else, that I think we have to intervene, but you must find the way.
When I just said it's Joe's birthday, and I've given a card for Penny to take up for him, Joe being he'll be 14 tomorrow. Okay. I'm not going to get a chance to go up because I've got a doctor's appointment today. I don't know if I told you, but I told you he always writes in shorthand. They write in shorthand to each other. The card I've sent him, did I tell you about this? I got it from Amazon. I said, if you can, it says on the front of it, 14. If you can bear to look up from your phone for a few seconds, I wish you a happy birthday. That's what the card says. And inside, instead of writing the usual thing, hi Joe, happy birthday, love granddaughter, I've put, hi Joe, 14, HBD, happy birthday, HBD, love you, LUV, love you, GD. Because that's how they write to, that's how they write to each other. His mum as well. Okay, that's a lovely story. I had an electric train set. My dad, bless him, in the room, so I don't know if it was already, but I think he built it himself. I think along with my uncle, who was good at electrics. He was always disappointed with me because I know I had a birthday party and we were all trying to use it. I didn't use it very much. You enjoyed adding to it. You enjoyed building it.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't get that opportunity. It was made for me. It was an older type. It was a type when it got, instead of 2 rails, it had a 3rd rail in the middle.
Yes.
To connect, but the newer ones coming out just had 2. So it was an older type. So all I could do was to run the trains. And it got boring.
Yeah.
Just watching them do it. I had no
I know the feeling.
Yeah. And when I was younger, when I was very young, he and my uncle, Eric, who is 100 today, my uncle Eric, they made me a village. And the village had the roads on, because I'd got a lot of toy cars, and there was a shop there, a cooperative shop, and I think there was a police station and a school. So I could run the cars on along. But it was the same thing. I don't think I played with it very much because I preferred making my own roads and making my own buildings and things. So they thought it was a good thing because I wanted to be involved in just standing there with the village and running the car along, going boom, 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 boom.
It was always the same thing. While you needed an escape to your creativity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best toys for children, in my opinion. The toys when they can use their creativity and do different things with them.
I used to make model aeroplanes, but they were plastic sets. But also I had a Meccano, and the Meccano was one with holes in and screws and everything. And I'm not mechanical at all, but I made a roundabout with it. I had a little motor that was very creative, which went round and round, and I put some little toy horses on it. And the word articulate, I always think about this. We articulate, we speak articulately. Do you all know the word? Elisabetta, do you know the word to speak?
Articulate? I'm not sure.
Samuel, can you put it in chat for me? Articulate. If you're articulate, the 2 ways of pronouncing it. If you're articulate, you speak very well. You speak very coherently. To articulate something, and that's a different way of saying it, to articulate something is to be able to explain, to be able to connect. With this Meccano set, as it was called, it had little girders with holes in and screws and washers. And I made it from a plan. It was called an articulated lorry. And the reason it was an articulated lorry is because it had a cab on it, and then the trailer part was separate. It was connected together. So I'd have been about 13, 12 or 13, and that's the first time I came across the word articulated. Okay, I for years I always thought it was something to do with lorries, but that's what articulate means. Okay, sorry about that.
I have one more thing to add very quickly. we discovered that Alma's son had the same passion for trains too, and she still has
Wow,
the
that's
material.
really-
Look at that. That's a collection piece.
Is that electric or clockwork?
It could be, because it's a Lego piece. It can be electrified. but
It's
you need to
Lego.
feel-
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, it's the Emerald Train, and it comes with the tender and the wagons, and it's just one of the many ones, the many pieces we have. Because he
That's
was
super.
crazy. He was crazy about that.
Yeah.
First it was trains, then it becomes airplanes. So we have it's like a Lego shop here
It
in my
looks
house.
beautiful.
Okay.
Yes, of course. The one thing you have to be careful of Lego is when you're a parent and you're walking through the room and Lego is all over the carpet and you're in bare feet.
Yeah, it
on
can hurt. Yes, it can. Yeah.
Lego.
A little
Well,
piece.
when I was little, Lego didn't exist, but we had some. We had something called, there were rubber bricks, which were the same thing. Okay, and I remember a story here. Dad making me feel very silly, and I was very silly actually, because you know when you build a house that the bricks overlap, don't they? I must have been very young, but I'd got this for Christmas and I just put them all on top of each other. So they just went like that. They just fell straight down. But with models that Alma's talking about, I had a clockwork track, and it was a tiny little wind up one, first of all, which you would put it on. And then, yeah, and you had to slot the rails together. And that was fun. That was as fun as the electric train. And then later on, we had these really big ones, which must be collector's pieces. God knows what happened to them. They were probably sold for money. And, oh, what's that?
Look at that's a Faller model.
Gosh, to build that.
Of course.
Well, all of Lego.
You can buy
I
the
can't hear you, Elma. Elma, Mike.
Wait, I'm muting me. As I mentioned, though, this is one of the pieces we have.
Is that
But then
are there lights on it?
we did, yes, there is a special thing that you can buy some LED bricks and put them in it so
Yeah.
that it becomes nicer.
Because
they don't make
it becomes nicer.
nicer.
Oh, nicer. I thought you said
Nicer. Yes, but they
Well, she said
want to
nicer.
show, because we're talking about toys.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, this is why I say this is like a Lego shop.
Isn't it? Fantastic. Oh, I could imagine that being really fun to make. What a sense of it.
It was
That'd be
one of the, because I couldn't play dolls with my son, so I had to resort to the Lego pieces.
So you must feel, you know, this word, a sense of achievement. A sense of
Well,
achievement. We know that phrase? Sense
Yeah.
of achievement. You have a real feel good thing about it. Mine was nothing like as ambitious as yours, but yet like Daniel would have had with his model trains, I had with my articulated lorry. Thank you for putting that in, Samuel. I haven't read it yet, but I saw it come up. Okay, we better move on. Elisabetta and Marina. Was it Elisabetta and Marina? Yeah.
Yes.
Elisabetta, what did Marina have to say then?
Marina, when she was a little kid, she preferred to play with boys. And she had a little gun that looked like a real gun, a police gun. And she loved to play with that gun. And inside, she could put a little piece of, we don't know the name, that made a loud noise, like when
Okay,
she used
I'll
that.
tell you what they were.
when she used them.
If it's like the guns which
I don't know we don't know the name of.
we used to have, Because I'll tell you about my experience with guns, because I was always a cowboy. I was always a sheriff. They were called caps, C-A-P-S. They were, be careful how you use this, because I don't even know if you can get them anymore, but they came in a cylinder and they were round and they were like a strip and they're like little pouches. So when you pulled the trigger and when the hammer went down, it exploded this tiny little bit of explosive on top of it. And so they were called caps, the cap being, if you imagine a very thin strip and it had got a little bubble on it, it was like a bubble. And the wheel, and you used to have to pull it through and it would go up, and then you'd have a strip
while you are triggering,
while you're triggering it, while you were pushing it. Yeah. Go on, Elizabeth. Sorry. So yeah.
Yes.
So she used to do that. Yeah.
Yes, and then she loved riding horses.
Wow.
She went to visit some friends. They were shepherds, and she asked to ride a horse.
They were what? They were
shepherds.
Shepherds.
Yeah, shepherds. Yes.
Shepherds.
And she asked, she asked to ride a horse that they were used for work, and this horse started running, and everyone was afraid, maybe except her. And then she managed to stop this horse. She still sometimes ride horses.
The funny is talking about being scared, because we won't get a chance to do it today, but what we'll do next time is we'll talk about fear when you were a child as well. We'll look at those expressions, because you could say she wasn't scared. Other children might have been scared to death, but not our Marina. She wasn't. So she was a real
Amazon.
No, not an Amazon. If you call her an Amazon, you get the idea that she's big-breasted, big-boned, big,
No,
and
she
the
was
warrior.
a nice little girl.
She was a tomboy.
Yeah.
She was a
Tomboy.
She was a tomboy. Okay.
There is an expression I would like to mention that I've read, that I read last week, and that was, if you have never loved an animal, you haven't lived.
Yes, I've heard that somewhere. Yeah.
So to be able to have a relationship, because it's a relationship really, with a dog or with a horse or with another animal, another pet when you are a kid, that's something that beats any electrical trains anytime.
Yes, we never had one when I was a child. I know Dad used to talk about his. I had one when I was a young man, and I was speaking to my son about my granddaughter, who's 2.5, her relationship with Vinny, the dog, who is still quite young. And I see her on, I don't get a chance to see her very much. I see her on FaceTime, and she pulls him all over. She's got her arm. The poor dog has to suffer it. He's a golden retriever, so he's very gentle. He was there before she was. So when she came into the house, Michael was telling me, I was laughing at him. He was telling me the story. He wasn't very impressed. He's lovely with her, but he wasn't impressed that a baby had entered the house as well. Anyway, Marina, tell me about Elisabetta. Was Elisabetta a tomboy as well?
I think, yeah, she loved to play with boys as well, but she has a very bright memories about one. That was a case really for her, about one doll. She liked crying dolls very much, and once they went to her cousin's house for the birthday of a family party, and her cousin she had such kind of crying dolls. And Elizabeth saw the first time these dolls, and she fell in love with this doll. And while everybody were sitting at the table and eating a festive dinner or supper, she managed to go somewhere for some reason, probably for toilet or for some other reason, and go through the room where that doll was in the middle of the room, just to have another look at this doll and probably touch it yeah, a little bit.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, she was so excited with this doll.
Okay.
And then she came back and sat at the table, and she did these different times, and parents, they noticed she absent so frequently. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So often, sorry. Yeah. And yeah, took this doll out of this room. And next time when Elizabeth went through that room to visit her lovely doll, she was so surprised and disappointed about absent this doll. Yeah.
Shall we let's ask Elizabeth some questions.
Yes. But I couldn't say anything because I was always pretending to go to the toilet. So
Yeah.
I couldn't ask, where is the doll?
Yeah.
And whose house was this? And
It was my cousin's house. It was in another village. We went to visit them
another village.
with my parents.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you go to see them often? Did you go to see them often?
Yes, sometimes, because we lived in Oristano. I don't know if you remember where Oristano is.
Yes, I do. Yes.
And they lived in the north of Sardinia, in Sassari.
Oristano.
so-
Wait, you live in Olbia. You live in
Yes.
Olbia, don't you?
Now I live in Olbia, but when I was young, I lived in Oristano. that
Okay,
is
when you first said
in the south.
Olbia, when we were first talking, I got it mixed up with Oristano, because Oristano, I have an ex-summer camp student who lives there, and Angela. She lives in Oristano, and that's like up the coast from Flumini, isn't it? It's just
Yes,
it goes. I've never been.
yes, yes.
So before I ask it, there's something which I'm longing to know from Elisabetta. And anyone else got a question for Elisabetta about this doll?
Did you get a similar doll after, sometimes
That's what
after in your life?
No, I had
Oh.
many dolls, but not that kind of dolls.
Not the one you loved, you had fallen in love with.
It was, yes, it was an expensive doll. And I don't know, maybe I didn't even ask. I don't remember.
That's what I wanted.
I
That's what I
just
wanted.
remember
Yeah.
that I loved
That's what
yes.
I wanted to ask you.
because
I didn't think there was so expensive. I remember my sister had one. I think she did. I remember seeing them. You'd have to, and sometimes they didn't work. You'd have to put some water inside them in a little bottle or something. And
That's when they pee.
oh,
not
that's when they pee.
pee.
No, that's when they pee, isn't it? Yeah,
Yes.
you used to have to put nappies on them.
That's
Yes.
right.
Like as Americans say, diapers. But I do remember them. Maybe they were more expensive.
You get,
Oh,
But
you get your dolls
Yes.
mixed, Steve.
I liked that one.
Poor Elizabeth. I feel really sorry for you now, Elizabeth. And you know, imagine
But
going-
anyway, I had many dolls. I already had many dolls, but not that one. Yes.
did you take them out for walks?
The dolls?
Yeah.
I could
you
be,
take-
yes.
Did you take? Did you understand
with
what I
the
said?
baby chair?
Did you take them out for walks? Do you know what
The
I mean?
dolls, you mean?
Did You take a dog out for a walk. Don't you take a dog out?
Ah, okay.
If you take a
Yes.
doll out for a walk, then you take it in. You push what?
Baby chair. Baby chair.
Don't actually call them baby chair. These days they
Baby
call them
carriage.
buggies.
Buggies.
Ah,
B-U-G-Y.
yes.
I can't remember what. I don't know if Americans call them that as well. When
Prams, maybe.
Baby.
yeah, now
Baby-
prams is an who said prams?
I did.
I thought it
Alma.
was you, Alma. It's always Alma.
Alma.
Alma. My sister had a pram, and in my day and age, that's an old expression. In my day and age, that's what they had. They didn't have beggies. Beggies? They didn't have buggies. They had push chairs. I think
Yes.
some
Push chairs.
push chairs or buggies, but they had prams, which were like curved, and there was a certain model of prams. That's when I went. Did you take your dolls out for a walk in the pram? You know, and then you tuck them in. You know what that means? To tuck them in.
Put the
A
doll
blanket
inside.
or
Go on, Sam.
Well,
put something like a blanket and the doll
okay.
inside of it.
Yes, and you talk about when you go to bed, your mummy, usually a mummy, could be a daddy, comes to tuck you in.
Okay.
It's always a kind of a funny thing. I've always thought of it. It's the sheet. You've got the sheets over you, and it's to tuck you in. It's to tighten the sheets over you and put them underneath the mattress. And they don't really do that. They might do that, but it's always seems strange for me because I don't want tucking in. I don't want to be trapped underneath tight bed sheets. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes,
absolutely.
and we don't do that because we don't use a sheet.
No,
Anymore.
we
Yes,
don't.
we
No.
use a duvet.
So do I. I've used duvets for years, a long time since I've used sheets. Although I have to say, I do quite like it when I go away and stay in a hotel, which I don't do now, but I did when I was working, and I could stay in expensive hotels, and you'd have the crisp sheets on the bed, and hotel pillows always seems better than I could actually buy for myself. And the maid would come and she'd turn down the bed. To turn that down the bed was to turn down the corner of the sheet, but no one used to come to tuck me in. No, not in a hotel. All right, that was a lovely
At
story,
your
Elizabeth.
house, it's better.
Right, Eva and Samuel, let's hear you two.
Yeah,
Okay, so
we didn't speak that much about our
No,
child.
they've been talking about C2 proficiency instead. I went in, they hadn't done much.
Because Samuel is my neighbor, so I took the opportunity to ask him
Stop making excuses. Get on with you.
Okay, yes, Sam told me that he played with the small model cars, and also he loved Lego, and we agreed on that Lego is the most fantastic toy which has been ever made.
Yes,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
You could do creative things, as Alma has just proved. I'm just so impressed by what you've done, Alma, there. Absolutely fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you, but actually it's very easy, no? You just have to follow the instructions, and they are very accurate, so you don't miss any piece and any pieces, and that's the difference between other brands which are less costly, but they may just leave with some big missing piece or they leave you in
I
trouble,
didn't have
no?
anything like that. Mine was model aircraft, and it was Second World War aircraft. So there were plastic, but you had to use that. My dad always used to get on to me when I was making these model aircraft because I'd get glue all over the place, and Dad was very precise. Whenever he was a painter and decorator by trade, but later on he worked in a factory. Painting and decorating with him was a nightmare, as Penny would say, because you had to do everything just right, and he was a good artist as well. So when he put the glue on, the cement on. He never got it all over his hands and all over the aeroplane. I did. It was always messy. But you followed instructions. And then I had Spitfires and Messerschmitts and Lancaster bombers on pieces of string coming down from the ceiling, so that they were all flying over the room. So yeah, that was.
And Steve, did you color them? Or
Yeah, yes,
yeah.
And that was the best part of it, actually.
Yeah.
Coloring them, because you had to put the camouflage, and you had transfers. Do you know what I mean by transfers? Transfers,
So
like pictures.
Some stickers.
No, they're not stickers.
Like stickers, like if you want to put an artificial tattoo on your hand.
It's just a foil, something like plastic foil.
No, it's
No.
usually cellophane or something, isn't it? What is
It's
it?
a paper which you need to put in the water.
That is paper. The ones I had were they're like cellophane anyway, like cellophane. Yeah. Okay.
So Samuel, did you do that too with your planes?
Yeah, I used to put the stickers on, so they've got the round circles or the German crosses on or whatever. After I put the paint on, but you'd paint them in camouflage. That part I enjoyed. When I was little, they thought I was going to be a budding artist like my dad. I lost that by the time I was about 8 or 9. Yeah, Dad was so good. He was very critical of my efforts, so I stopped being good at art.
And you, Samuel, did you have problems with your father too when you were doing your marvelous Lego pieces? Samuel,
did you have problems or did you have encouragement?
Well, encouragement rather, I would say.
That's encouragement. And what did?
But it wasn't proper like Alma.
What did Eva get up to? Did she tell you? What did Eva?
Yeah, she told me. She told me she was used to play with her doll. It was red-headed. She got from Russia actually, and her aunt gave it to her. And then she played also with horses.
Who gave it?
Plastic horses.
Who gave it to her? Who gave it to her?
My aunt.
Her aunt.
No, let's get the pronunciation. Aunt, not aunt. You both say. Is it because you both come from the same region? You're both saying aunt, aunt,
aunt. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, aunt. Okay. Sometimes here we say auntie, aunt gave it to him, not aunt. That's why I stopped you. That's why I corrected you. Aunt gave it to him. Okay. Red-headed doll.
Yeah, from Russian, because it was the only country she could visit that time, because their communist era was.
Of course it was. Yes.
Yeah, because of communism. Yeah.
Yes, I remember. I'm old enough to remember the Czechoslovakian revolution.
Yeah, it was on November the 17th.
It's 1960.
You mean this one, when the Russians came here? It was in 1968.
I thought it was, it was
some kind of occupation.
Because I was in Singapore. I was in Singapore at the time. I was in the Marine. And the leader of the revolution was Dubek. And the Hungarian Revolution was in 1956. Yeah, you know about the Hungarian Revolution? I don't remember it from the time, but in Budapest that was quite a bloody revolution. The Czech one wasn't. Yeah, I'd forgotten that you'd have been born under communist rule. Yeah.
Oh,
okay.
And me as well, actually.
Of course, you as well. Of course, you were.
You're a star. Who did all of those?
Yeah.
Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, Hungary.
I
That's right.
visited 3 communist, no, I visited 4 communist countries before things changed. When I was married to Penny, we went on, first of all, we went on holiday to Yugoslavia, as it then was, for our honeymoon.
Oh, yeah, Southern Europe.
Yeah.
Croatia, as it is now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, beautiful. The food in the hotel was awful, but, and then we went to Bulgaria, where the food was terrific. And I remember at least being able to read the signs, because I'd tried to teach myself some Russian before, and their alphabet, they were using this the same. And we had a good time it was just a resort, basically. We didn't see anything of Bulgaria, but we met some East Germans, and they said they were the only capitalists left. They said they were the only capitalists left there. We had to speak French because they didn't speak any English. So Penny could understand more than I could, but then I would speak back to them. I was more confident at speaking. I've forgotten most of my French now. And yeah, and also a physicist who worked in East Berlin. So I didn't like to ask details, and I didn't like to say what I did because I was still a Royal Marine officer. So it was all very strange. And then much later, I went to East Berlin when the wall was still up. And I went, because I actually worked for a German company, but it was based in England. And we were going to take our part of the sales force over to Germany. So I had to go out and plan it, okay, and plan trips, which I did. I found this nightclub which we'd go to, where there's this woman who sang like Marlene Dietrich, and I thought that would be good. And we took them there, and I had a wonderful meal. I actually spoke German, all written out for me phonetically, because I had to address everyone, which went down well. But while I was there, I decided I'd go to East Berlin. So I went through Checkpoint Charlie, okay? And I went through rather late at night. And it was grim. It was dark when I went through, and I didn't know where I was going. And I just walked along. It was like a freeway, like a dual carriageway. I couldn't find everything. Everything was so dark. And eventually I came to this, I think it was a hotel. No one talked to me. And when I sat there and had a beer, maybe they could see I was a foreigner. Then when I decided I had to get back over to the West at by midnight, and I realized I wasn't going to make it in time. I needed a taxi. And I went outside of the hotel, and there was this big queue for taxis. I couldn't get a taxi. So the crowd there all realized this and got hold of me and shoved me to the front and got a taxi, because they didn't want me to get into trouble, and sent me on my way back to Checkpoint Charlie. So I wasn't late. And I remember talking to the driver, right, I can't go any further. It was scary. Just an atmosphere. You remember this, Marina, but you'd have been a kid, really, when you were there. But it was scary. But then when we did the event, we did a tour of East Berlin in a coach with the reps, and it was all propaganda. We had a tour operator telling us how wonderful it was. It wasn't. Similarly, I forgot, we also went to Romania. Penny and I went to Romania after Bulgaria. Seaside resort again. We went to Bucharest, and that was a propaganda trip. We were taken around. It was students who were tour guides, and everything was wonderful and so on, which of course it wasn't. And it was a time of Ceausescu who'd come into power, and they thought they were going to be liberal. The guide we had thought that they were headed towards liberalization, but it never happened. Anyway, digressed. I'm going to play you a song. All right. We're talking about, if you've got time, we're talking about just as a change. We're talking about, and we'll continue on Sunday because I want to do scary things on Sunday. Okay. Yeah. All right. You're going to say something, Daniel?
Yes, Alma didn't have the opportunity to hear the story about her Barbie doll, but you can ask her questions, and so she would be able to.
Didn't we get to you? I'm terribly sorry, Alma. I do apologize. Go on.
It's okay, I don't mind. I don't mind. I think well, Daniel can tell about it, no?
We can tell a little bit about it. The two of us, we can do something in common.
We could do some
So
role play on this, yes.
Go on then.
That's right. So you told me you had a special Barbie doll, didn't you? What kind of
Exactly.
Barbie doll was that?
It wasn't even a Barbie, a genuine Barbie. It was a special, same size, so I could use the Barbie clothes on her. But it was special because it was like a dancer. She had a lot of features, like could make some movements, which at that time weren't available on average Barbies. So she was special to me. And more, and she and I also had a very special doll bedroom for her, which was a Venetian style, so very baroque looking. With it was made of plastic. It was light blue plastic with all gilded decorations, like in a vanity table and a canopy bed. So it was very lavish. And
But then something very special happened to your Barbie. And
yes, I said
person.
a stab in my heart because when I moved to Spain, it went with all the other furniture because there was a big box and we had to wait a lot for the furniture to come to us, was shipped. And when it came to me, the box with all the material they contained, they had been, I would say also tarnished, but they had nicked the contents. And when I open it, no Barbie anymore, no clothes, and also the pieces of the bed of the toy bedroom had been destroyed or taken away. And to me, it was really a shock because I could never buy something. I was never able to get something similar. It was a unique thing, a one of a kind thing, and it just this is why it's still very etched in my memory. And so, yes, I was traumatized, and I had very bad feelings towards whoever nicked my box. And it was really like I could never get something similar that had the same value to me.
You didn't get over it. You never got over it.
Do you know why I forgot you, Alma? It's because I've heard the story when I came into.
I know.
I thought I've heard all this before about the Barbie doll. It's because when I came into your room, I heard it all. You said, you got it right the second time.
A stab in my heart, and the nick.
No, we haven't got. You haven't said the stab in the heart. You said. All right, you say it was nicked. You said it was nicked. Yeah, that's okay. It'd have been better to say it had been nicked.
Yeah, it had been nicked.
It had been nicked. Yes. And so when you didn't have it, it was like, as we talked about, a stab in the heart. Elisabetta, do you know what Alma means by, because I gave her the word, although they probably knew it. It was, what did you suppose? What did you suppose?
Someone stole something
from. It was stolen. N-I-C-K-E-D, to nick something. Okay. You could equally say stolen. You don't have to use these slang terms all the time. I'm just saying it had been nicked. I'm just saying you don't have, Alma, you know what I mean? You don't have to, just because you know a slang term, you don't have to say.
They could have said they had tampered with my box.
Yes, you could say that tampered. Yeah, that tampered with the box. Yes. Poor Alma and poor Barbie.
Yeah. Who knows?
She might have gone to a decent
Yeah,
home.
maybe she was. Hopefully, she was adored and was appreciated by whoever had it as a gift. That's all, the only consolation, solace I can think of. But it was my creature, my,
No, they
my,
can't
my
call her a
baby.
creature. They can't call her a creature.
Yes, I know, my
It's
baby
poor
creature.
yeah.
Another, yes, my
You can't
baby.
call her a creature.
Yeah, no, creature is a
For,
different. Yeah, but
for a kid, I can understand her feeling because you really build a kind of relationship with
Yeah,
your
but
first teddy bear or with
oh yeah,
your
I had one with my first teddy bear, but I still wouldn't call it a creature.
No.
Okay.
For a kid, it is really because you
But-
speak to it.
No, it just sounds odd, honestly. Just simple word to use. Poor thing. Okay, we use thing about people and things. You know, I could say
Because you are British. In
yes,
the
but
main, in
you're
Europe,
you're learning English. I know it's because I'm British, but you're learning English, and you wouldn't say, "Oh, the poor creature." Okay, you'd say, "Oh, the poor." You'd say, "Oh, the poor thing, the poor doll, my poor Barbie." Just one thing to say. I meant to say this to you before. We use "thing" about people quite a lot. Oh, have you been poor? You poor thing. Okay, did you know this? Yeah, it's very common. Sam, did you know that? You're not saying very much. You keep nodding. You use "thing" about people. Oh, Alma, poor thing at that age. Okay, Elizabeth, you poor thing. You never got a doll that cried. You poor thing. It sounds odd, doesn't it? It's calling someone.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah. But
no, I will put you in a quandary because in the northern part of England, you call people pet. Oh, pet. Ah, that's not thing.
Not just in the north part. Maybe it's in the north. Yes, it is in the north more than I did. But I had one who I went out with a woman a few years ago. About 15 years ago. And she always called everyone pet. She actually came from I didn't like it very much. You're right, pet. There are a lot of these things. You will get, all right, duck. Okay, and I think you even get that in London. All right, duck. All right, ducky. What can I get you? Okay.
Really?
Yeah. All right, pet. So you go and get a cab in London, or you go into a shop. Taxi drivers like to say to you, "Okay, love, where do you want to go?"
Love. Yeah, love,
And
yes.
and I actually use love quite a lot. In my family, we use love and also lovey. And be careful with lovey because they use
Lovey-dovey.
it is lovey-dovey, but it wasn't meant in that way. But they also used to talk about lovies, Luvvies, lovies, as people who were involved in drama on stage. They were lovies. Okay, they probably had a because of the way they talked and everything. They were called lovers. But if I'm speaking to my sister, even Penny these days, all right, love, okay, love. And you go into a shop and the taxi driver, and you'll even get called darling as well. And what can I do for you, darling? All right, Cockneys, and that's not north, pet, duck. I remember my best friend when I was 8 or 9. He'd teased me about something, and I got my own back when his granddad came up to him and said, "Are you all right then, ducky?" And after his granddad had gone, I said, "Ducky, ducky, ducky, ducky." Yeah, duck. All these things. British used to have this reputation for being so reserved. I think it's a load of nonsense, really. I think it was true at one stage, but we are extremely familiar at times. I'm not going to do the song now. I will leave it. and perhaps we'll do it on Sunday, because we shall keep remembering and reminiscing, because I think it's a good, and it's talking about the past all the time. At some stage, we'll have to get round to talking about the future as well. Different ways of talking about the future. That was good. A lot of good stuff came out. I enjoy listening to you. I'll enjoy listening to your stories. Nice. And we're all impressed by you, Alma. Absolutely.
What about
your Lego building?
your Lego collection? That was just the tip of the iceberg. I could take you
Oh
around.
gosh, we have to take, or we're going to guided tour then, prepare the photographs. Oh, I didn't tell you about my teddy bear. Just before we go. All right. My teddy bear was called Lucky. Now, as I remember him now, I remember him as being rather straggly, but that could have been later in his life. The reason he was called Lucky is that I lived at a time when televisions were only just, they'd been invented sometime before, but then the war came and they weren't developed. We didn't have a television until I was about 11 years old. But when I was very little, my granddad used to take me next door, where there was this old Mrs. White, who had white hair, who was in bed in the front room. She's very ill. She died soon afterwards. And she had a tiny black and white television. And on that, I was able to watch Westerns. And my favorite Western at that time was Hopalong Cassidy. Hopalong means that he had a limp. I didn't know that. He hop along. So people used to call him Hoppy. His partners used to call him Hoppy. And he was all dressed in black, which was unusual, wasn't it? Because it's usually the baddies who dressed in black. You know, we had goodies and baddies, the goodies and the baddies. And he rode a white horse called Silver, a bit like the Lone Ranger. Now, Hopalong Cassidy, played by an actor called William Boyd. My granddad always used to call him William Boyd. His sidekick, you got that, Alma? Sidekick.
Yeah,
sidekick is partner, his friend. Sidekick. I suppose it's an American one, but you will actually hear that in British English as well. Maybe you're talking about a gang or something. His sidekick was a man called Lucky. So I was Hopalong Cassidy outfit, and my teddy was called Lucky.
Lucky because of
and I remember one time making myself cry, thinking if anything happened to Lucky, I'd want to die. As you say, that was my creature. All right. Yeah, it was my creature. Lucky. I think eventually he got so bedraggled. Bedraggled, Bedragled, bedraggled.
Worn out, consumed, no? Worn
Dropping off. I think he actually went in the dustbin eventually when I was older. But it was Daniel's shocked. Another quick story about this is a funny one. Back to Marina with guns. Okay, I was all into. I could tell you all about Indian tribes, the Cheyenne and all their traditions and cowboys. And I had this holster is what you put a gun in, and this gun with the caps which were okay. And I was a bit of a timid young lad. Anyone who was bigger than me, my parents were a bit overprotective. They were the big boys and so on. So I proudly wore this holster with this silver gun, and two bigger boys, they probably were, if I was 4, they were probably 6 or something like that, but they were bigger boys. they wanted to look at my gun. Of course, I let them, and they were admiring. Oh, wow, because it did feel quite big. And I distinctly remember one of them saying, "Yeah, you know what? It's a real gun. It's a real gun with the spring taken out." With the spring taken, he had got no idea of what he was talking about. With the spring taken out.
For a spring.
With, a gun doesn't have a spring, it has a firing mechanism, but he wanted to sound big, like he knew something. So it was a real gun. I remember walking away thinking, no, it isn't. It's a toy. It's a toy. But yes, I loved my gun. I used to have a bow and arrow as well, but I wasn't an Indian. I was Robin Hood. Oh. And I was also D'Artagnan. Do you know who D'Artagnan was?
Of course, we know.
Of course you
Or
would.
musketeers.
You were French in
Musketeers,
D'Artagnan.
You have stolen all our memory.
I know. Yes, I was one of the. He wasn't one of the three musketeers. He was a fourth musketeer, wasn't he? And Claude Duval, who was on the king's side in our civil war. I used to make swords out of yeah. And when everyone else, I was telling you this a while ago, kids would be asked what they wanted to be when they grew up. You know, I want to be a train driver, miss. I want to be a bus driver. I want to be a policeman. You know what I said? I want to die on the battlefield.
Poetic.
Oh, hardly. When you think back, I think I'd seen a picture somewhere which looked poetic. None of this kind of grimness of war as something. I lived in these dreams, which I was eventually a soldier, and there was nothing poetic about it, I can tell you. But that
National hero.
sorry,
National hero.
No, there's nothing poetic about being shot at. But it's just it's a funny thing which the funny things that you come out with as a child. So many stories.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I shall see you on Sunday. That was a lovely session.
Bye, everybody.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was
Bye,
wonderful.
Thank you,
everybody.
Steve.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye and good night. Thank you.
Sleep tight.